Okay, so yeah, I think I was talking about I think I was talking about that the regular medical system, like David Icke said, the regular medical system does not have the correct understanding of human. So if you have a problem and you go to the hospital to get treated, I mean that's our habit, right? We just go to the hospital to find a doctor and we listen to his or her instructions whether to take this medication or that medication or to go to have surgery or so basically I feel that um, the yeah so it's like I don't know like so it's not always a good idea, right? Because I think we are in this habit and we just go to the hospital, but if the doctors there don't have the correct understanding of your problems and how to solve it, then I mean this might be a little bit like religion, like yeah. I think David Icke also talks about yeah. He also talked about like how well. I think he said the hospitals kills your health, and so unless I sort of explained, I think that they don't have a correct understanding of the humans because um, because we are not just our physical body, right? Because most people, I mean, including me, like we think we are just our physical bodies, and this just seems to be what I mean what we experience. We we wake up and we maneuver our physical body and we have thoughts, but we also have a kind of this mental component to us, but we are maybe perhaps we are misguided into thinking that this even this mental component is somehow generated by the physical brain, and so it's actually ultimately still physical. So we are just our physical body, and therefore I mean I never went to medical school, but if the average medical doctor thinks that they have dissected the human body, the anatomical um, in their when they study anatomy, they think they figured out everything about the human. They think we are just a human physical body. Um, but the problem is, does the average doctor ever looked into this problem and are they sure? Are they completely sure that we are just our physical bodies, or maybe it's just a kind of like a belief? Is a kind of it's like a kind of belief that the medical community or the medical school teaching imposed on the average medical student to think this way that we are our physical body. So I mean, if we look into are we really our physical body, then well I haven't looked into it, but my impression is I think we are not our physical bodies, and the reason is that because there are things such as astral projection and um, so yeah so I mean the average perhaps average psychologist or doctor will think that astral projection is a kind of hallucination, but what is an hallucination? Um like like well I'm getting I'm giving an example from the Matrix movie, but I mean, well, it's just an example. It might not be correct, but um, if you are someone in the world inside the Matrix reality, like in the Matrix movie, everyone, the whole population is experiencing a fake AI generated reality, and if you are in that reality and you encountered a doctor in the reality, and a doctor is telling you that your astral projection experiences or your out of body experiences are just hallucinations. I mean, that's their mainstream belief that those things are just hallucinations. But, well, in that case, then actually your whole reality is sort of like a hallucination, right? So, like, this gets us to the question of what is real and what is not real. Uh, yeah, I mean, if you go to listen to the Jeff Mara podcast, then I think there are many people with very strange, extraordinary experiences, and how do we make of those experiences? Like, the average person just dismisses those experiences as hallucinations, as not real, or not a valuable topic of investigation. Like, it's the same with astral projection. Like, the average person or does not think that. I mean, with astral projection, I mean, so it might be. This might sound like a conspiracy, but like in the world we are living in right now, there is all this information about astral projection. Like Isabella A. Green astral projected, and she saw the demiurge of the Gnostic tradition. So, is she telling a lie? Is she making this up? Like the average person or the average person, especially people trained in the medicine, modern medicine, will just dismiss those things as hallucinatory things, and they won't treat those things as, for example, people's out of body experiences or near death experiences. Like, couldn't we treat those as genuine glimpses into the bigger reality instead of dismissing them as just hallucinations and there's nothing to talk about, nothing to investigate, nothing valuable? There's no valuable information there in those near-death experiences to for us to learn about the reality we are in, the bigger reality we are in, like what transcends the physical reality. So, I mean, so I see many problems in the current world. I mean, the world, like the one I just mentioned. Well, in the beginning, I said I'm going to talk about money. Maybe I said I'm going to talk about money, but yeah, how money creates problems. But yeah, I went off on the tangent and was talking about other problems in the world. So yeah, so maybe I'm just trying to talk about some problems in the world. And so the one problem I mentioned was how the regular medical community, perhaps they don't completely understand the human body, and so when you have a problem you want to go get treatment from them, it won't be the best treatment because they don't. And I think this many people has been talking about this. Like many people realize is this. Like like for instance, I mean, the idea of chakras. Is it real? Like the regular medical community will just laugh at chakras. They say, uh, perhaps you watch too much anime. Did you watch did you watch Naruto? And they talk about chakras, and so you're just watching too much anime. There's nothing such as chakras. But how do we? But where why does is there such a strong belief that we are just the physical in the current modern medical community, even in psychology, perhaps so I mean things such as I think in maybe in Chinese medicine they talk about the life force energy qi, and I think the usual doctors will not just dismiss that idea of qi, like they think maybe it's a sort of um, it has to be a real fluid in your body, and they can't see the fluid, so there can't be any qi. I mean, so why? I mean, we have to understand why it became why they are so physicalist, and well, it's not just in the medicine, but in other science as well. I think it's generally the current age is defined by a very strong materialistic, physicalist paradigm, and why is that? Like, why do we just rely on our senses? So there's all like I just heard about, like, I think there's this doctor in China, like a Chinese medicine doctor, and well, I haven't looked into it in detail, but the doctor seems to be. They say the doctor seems to be able to see many of the non-physical aspects of the human body. So perhaps he can see the flow of the qi and different organs that are not physical, so the non-physical aspects of things, and he can see those things because like he has some kind of psychic ability that he has his, like, there's this concept of the third eye opening. So I don't have my third eye open, so I don't know what it feels like to have the third eye open, but perhaps the doctor in this Chinese medicine doctor has the third eye opened, and so he can observe more phenomenon than people who just use the ordinary physical eyes. And so I mean the modern age is um, is is marked by is most people not having psychic abilities, like the ability to channel, the ability to, like, clairvoyance, or to see non-physical things, to see ghosts, or to sense what's beyond the physical. Like most people, I mean, if you go through the regular educational system, they won't teach you how to develop your intuition, how to connect to your higher self. Like even if of course, whether the concept of higher self is genuine and things like that, like we can like there is some room for discussion. But if you just go through the regular educational system, then they didn't teach you how to develop your psychic ability, or how to astral project, or how to access the Akashic records, or how to remember your past lives, or how, like, what happens after we pass away. Those kinds of questions seems to be avoided in the regular educational platforms or systems or schools. And like what if like this is like deliberate, like David Icke talks about the world being controlled by a cult, or the world being controlled by reptilians, and Courtney Brown talks about the world being like this being a prison planet um, controlled by the bad aliens. So what if the regular educational system is also somehow controlled by the cult or the bad? I'm not sure if the bad aliens is equivalent to the cult David Icke talks about, but somehow the world is controlled by people or aliens, or some kind of force that's not considering the wellness of the population it controls. So if the school system is also controlled by, and maybe the regular teachers and professors might not know that the university I'm affiliated to somehow, if we go deep enough, is controlled by the cult or controlled by bad aliens. Like the regular professors might just think that's crazy. But if like not just the universities, but if the regular educational system is somehow controlled by the bad aliens, then it makes some sense. It makes sense that they won't teach you like for example, if Earth is a there's some disputes as to whether Earth is round or flat. If you go to the Darius J. Wright materials, they say they saw Earth being flat when they went out of body, but there's some dispute as to whether Earth is round or flat as well. But I mean, if the whatever this society, this place we are living in right now, if it's a kind of prison space, it's controlled by bad aliens or entities, and many of the things inside the prison, it's not just the natural, like it didn't evolve naturally. The educational system didn't evolve naturally for the benefit of everyone, as the best place to go to search for the most ultimate correct knowledge of life and the universe. If Earth is a prison kind of space, and we are like souls trapped here, like the Gnostic ideas sort of say, then and the schools in the system is controlled by the prison guards, then it makes sense that these schools will not teach you things that will liberate you from the prison. Because perhaps Earth is like a kind of fake reality, and we are somehow trapped inside here, like according to using the Gnostic ideas. If it's correct, I'm not sure. There needs to be an investigation as to whether Gnosticism is correct, and if this place is somehow like a prison, and we are souls trapped in the prison, the whole society is not built for the happiness, for the well-being of the population, and things such as schools, hospitals, perhaps religious institutions. I mean, those the kinds of things that are already set up in our world, where we think it's the best place for us to go to get help. I mean, I just made the example of the medical institution. Like when we become sick or we have some kind of problem, most people has the habit, we just go to the regular hospitals with very very big buildings, and they look very nice, and with doctors, nurses, and it's the best place to go to get a treatment for my physical or mental illness. But even, going back to the prison planet, prison space, prison planet um, idea, like these things such as the hospitals, if it's ultimately David Icke said the World Health Organization is controlled by the cult, and all the hospitals in the world is sort of influenced by the World Health Organization. So if ultimately what's at the very root influencing all these kinds of places we go to try to make our lives better, on the surface, it looks like the place to go. Like, I'm sick, I go to the hospital, I get treatment, and sometimes it works. Like, sometimes my cold gets better, and it works sometimes, but sometimes it also doesn't work. And sometimes, when you go get treatment from the regular medical system, they try to prolong. Like, maybe they pretend to give you certain treatments and you feel better a little bit, but after a while you feel bad again, so you go back to the hospital, and then you feel better for a while again, you go back, and then after a while they say you have to have surgery because the problem gets out of control. Like, these kinds of things seems to happen sometimes, at least. And sometimes, well, if your surgery is free, then maybe it's okay. It might, it's like, if there was a way, perhaps using more traditional types of medicine to help you not have to go through all those medications and checkups at the hospitals, and the doctors explaining you this and that and telling you have to do surgery, and ultimately you get the surgery, and if the surgery is very expensive, then it might be a kind of like a kind of indirect scam of the medical system, that because we thought it's a completely fair place, the hospitals are actually for they want to treat the patients well, and but if it's a kind of, and I think I also heard this from somewhere, like perhaps our environment is such a way, like with the pollution or with the food that we eat, we don't know what's in our foods. So it's kind of like a conspiracy, but if the people providing the food and the doctors and the medical the medication, the pharmaceutical companies, and if they are all sort of working together, to make it, on the surface it looks like they're providing food for us, it's a good idea, like the doctors are treating our illness, so it's good. They are helping us, and the pharmaceutical companies create medicine which treats our sickness, and perhaps on the surface it looks like we're just getting the sickness randomly, and somehow we got it and we go to the hospital to get treated. So what if somehow the people providing the food sells you the food, and inside the food there's something in there to make you sick, and so you go to the hospital and the doctors just tell you some nice sounding suggestions, and you follow them and you get better a little bit maybe, and maybe you get worse again afterwards, and you go back to the doctor for more advice, and the doctor prescribes you medication which does not actually, in some cases does, perhaps most cases, in some cases does not actually treat the root problem of your illness. So it's sort of like the people providing foods in the world and the medical institution and perhaps the pharmaceutical companies are sort of all working together, to create people that are sick, and so that they go to use the medical institution, and it's like they conspired to scam people, like behind the scenes. Perhaps something like that is happening to some extent, and so I mean, back to the prison planet idea, like the hospitals are all, if they're all, I mean, everything I'm saying here, like I didn't provide proof. Like in math, we would need proofs for every theorem. Like math is a subject where when you study it, everything is proved very rigorously. It's a very, I mean, you know that you are studying correct things when you're studying math, because everything is explained to you why things are the way they are, why it is true. We have definitions, theorems, proofs, and reasonings and calculations. Everything fits together to make what the math textbook or paper claims true. Like you can check the proof yourself. But with the things I was just saying, like, did the medical institutions and like, is there these kinds of conspiracies in the world? Are we living in a prison planet? Is the world controlled ultimately by a kind of dark force, like in the Gnostic idea they call them archons, but can we see them? Are they around? Like David Icke talks about the world controlled by archons behind the scenes. They are all around us, perhaps beyond the visible light spectrum. So, I mean, why? I mean, so it makes some. Maybe I'm talking all over the place, but I mean, this is the first video I'm making, so if I make more videos in the future, then maybe I'll try to be more organized. So I just touched upon a lot of things. If this place is a prison planet, and people like Courtney Brown, if you look into his claims and videos and interviews, and he said, well, he said, like, there will be people who disagree with him, but he said quite strongly that we are literally in a prison planet. And people like Isabella Green said, we are in a reincarnation soul trap. So, and people like Haldy Mikowski also talks about the memory wipe. And yeah, so I mean, the idea of the Earth being a prison planet and there being a reincarnation soul trap around it, these ideas are like it deserves more discussion. It deserves more investigation. And if this really is a prison planet, how to escape it? Is the method provided by Isabella Green's course reliable? Like, I think there at least needs to be a discussion. Like, so maybe this gets back to the, like, maybe it gets back to I might want to talk about what most people in the world seems to be doing. Like, yeah, so most people in the world seems to be like money. Yeah, so at the beginning I said I'm going to talk about money, how money creates problems. Like, so yeah, so most like for instance, after I finished my PhD in math, so I couldn't continue on the academic path, and people can give many reasons for that. Maybe I didn't work hard enough. Maybe the math I did was just not really popular in the math community, or I didn't have good relations with people at other math departments. Not even Actually, I didn't have good relations with even the people at my own math department when I was a graduate student. So, and So going back to the money problems, most people in the world seems to be like money driven. Like they, yeah. Yeah, I was talking about me not being able to get a job as a postdoc, and my like many people, my father, his friends suggested me, why don't I just go look into the artificial intelligence and uh, if I learn artificial intelligence, then there are many opportunities. There are much more opportunities than the regular pure math academic world to have a kind of job to be regularly getting income. Like so at the end, it looks like many of the things in this world comes back to money. Like, is there enough money to hire more researchers in the math departments? And if the people providing the money doesn't think that, I don't know, maybe number theory is a worthy subject of pursuit, they just won't give too many positions for number theory people. And so the very few positions there are makes all the mathematicians or number theorists have to compete for the very few positions, and so there's a kind of competition. Even maybe I talked about this earlier in academia, and to write papers and like people might, the average person might just think, well, that's normal, there's competition everywhere. And then there's competition like well, maybe, yeah. So I've talked about, yeah, maybe if I'm talking to is, yeah, that I maybe I have a lot of things to try to express, but this is just the first video I'm putting out. So yeah, maybe. So yeah, so in summary, like yeah, I might go on too much, but in summary, like maybe I just want to point out a few problems in this world. So some of the things I talked about is like the regular medical institution, well, according to David Icke at least, but perhaps many people are realizing this. If they did not see the human, they're not understanding the complete human. Like perhaps in yogic traditions, in other traditions, they talk about humans having many bodies. Like we have the etheric body, we have the astral body, we have other bodies. But these kind of ideas is not accepted in the regular medical system. So if you go to the doc, like that's one thing, and you have a problem in your etheric body, it's not going to get treated, right? So that's what, and so and related to this is the idea that perhaps not just in the medical community, but most in most of the population, we just assumes that consciousness arises from our brain, and the things like astral projection or near-death experiences or perhaps alien abductions are just hallucinations. So I mean, perhaps there is a need to how I mean, if we try to like it might be good to change the world, try to change the paradigm, like when most of the world starts to look into the evidence and believe, well, perhaps not believe, it's better to have evidence. When more and more of the world people starts to realize that we are not our physical bodies, and we have consciousness that doesn't emerge from the brain. In fact, perhaps the opposite, the brain emerges from consciousness, as Donald Hoffman often says. The brain, he thinks the brain emerges from consciousness. On the physical world, all matter emerges from consciousness, which comes before, which first appeared. Is more as a more fundamental, more fundamental aspect of the universe, consciousness. So yeah, this relates to that because, and then I talked about the world, this place being a prison planet, and so. I mean, perhaps the idea that we are just physical bodies, we are the consciousness just comes from the brain. Those kinds of ideas, although popular on Earth, perhaps they are promoted by the cult, or like the dark forces that are running the world. Like they promoted this materialistic world because it makes some sense because in the materialistic worldview there are no psychic abilities, and there are no out-of-body experiences, and we won't even try to discover our souls, like for instance, like most people in the world does not really care to about the out-of-body experience phenomenon. Like they think it's hallucination, and yeah. So yeah, this is another thing I talked about, astral projection, and it makes some sense that the schools won't teach you things like getting maybe perhaps it's recovering psychic abilities, because those kinds of things and UFOs and aliens is another topic as well that the mainstream educational system seems to avoid, and if the educational system is controlled by the dark force or the bad aliens, the prison guards of this planet, then it makes sense that the education system inside the prison planet for the inmates will not teach things like like UFOs or astral projection or a scientific explanation of reincarnation, or how to remember your past lives, or how to connect to a higher self, like things that will liberate you. It makes sense that the regular educational institutions will come up with reasons to explain those things away as somehow invalid, somehow they're just hallucinations. It's because perhaps it's because those kinds of things will lead us to figure out the way out of the prison. So, I mean, as inmates inside it, assuming that we are in a prison planet, and all these institutions, including the medicine, well, I talked a lot about the medical institution earlier, but yeah, medicine and education, we cannot just go to the university and expect to be given the ultimate truth of life and the universe, because they're not going to tell you the things to help you liberate from the prison. Perhaps, I mean, with all the math research going on, even with the Fermat's last theorem solved, I mean, the mathematicians are in the universities endlessly pursuing more and more math knowledge, but if we're in a prison planet, then why not leave the prison first and then do math in the internal life? Like, if we just do math all our life, and even close to passing away, we never figure out how reincarnation works, how to leave this prison planet. I mean, perhaps the average mathematician also thinks that they are their physical body, so they only have this one lifetime to enjoy whatever they want to enjoy. And in their case, it's math research, but perhaps in most people's case, is obtaining as many money as possible, as much money as possible in this lifetime inside the prison planet to travel, to enjoy things they can enjoy with the money they accumulated. People think that they just have this one lifetime, and so I think that we need to wake up to the bigger picture. Like, if we are in some kind of prison planet and all these institutions are a bit misleading, like a little bit like with okay, so then and I think I didn't talk a lot about religion, but when we want to know what's going on here with life and the universe and with the prison planet, and is this a prison planet and how to escape it, like why like most people just think that we live on a small planet at the edge of our galaxy, and the reason why, and we somehow evolved from monkeys or something like monkeys. That's where we come from, and that's what the mainstream tells us, and that's not going to liberate us. Like the usual science teachings gave us the impression that we are somehow on a tiny planet and we're just an accident evolved from things like animals like monkeys, and we were living on this planet, and no aliens are visiting us, like no extraterrestrials are visiting us. So I mean, so the mainstream tells us that no extraterrestrials are visiting us because they're just too far away. Like Zeta Reticuli is too far away. Nothing can exceed the speed of light, and even the UFOs, like the topic of UFOs and aliens is also a very, very sort of censored, or you can say restricted topic of discussion in most regular academic spaces, and most scientists like tend to think that the alien abductions are not real; they're just hallucinations, or like. But what if the real picture? The real picture could be that we are in a prison planet controlled by the bad aliens, and then it makes sense. It makes sense why in our world we are sort of not allowed a lot of knowledge about extraterrestrials, or those kinds of knowledge are sort of ridiculed. Those kinds of topics are not, and then maybe this gets back into the money, how money causes problems, like perhaps the scientist who really wants to look into UFOs and extraterrestrials cannot do so because they become, no one's going to fund the research. And so this gets back to what I said, freedom in the math or science research. Like the scientific or academic institution is not a completely free place for people to think freely about what this place actually is, and if scientists are sort of, how to say, affected by the funding, they have to make money to live, right? So they give up what they actually want to research in order to have the money to survive more in the prison planet. And so this is not a very, very fair, desirable situation, right? So it's as perhaps if the scientist wants to research things that could potentially liberate the souls on this planet from the prison planet, then they get underfunded, and then they won't do the research, and then the knowledge cannot come out, and people just believe in the funded research as the ultimate truth, that the frontier of what we know about the universe. So this is about the scientific institution, like the kind of, it's not it's a kind of it's not a completely free place to explore, research whatever they want. And especially when it comes to things that could potentially liberate the inmates from the prison planet, they get underfunded. So here's I mean, that might be happening, I'm not sure, but it's just my imagination. Like perhaps that's otherwise. Why is things like the Donald Hoffman's theory of conscious agents so non-popular? Like perhaps because it's related to how we can escape the prison planet. It's related to why our consciousness can exist separate from the body, and the bad aliens, the dark forces controlling the research community does not want that kind of knowledge to be known to the inmates in the prison planet, and that's why these kind of things cannot get promoted, and they are coined pseudoscience. Or so what do we do? So I talk about the scientific institution and the problem with it not being completely free. There's no freedom of research, complete freedom of research. People have to do what the rest of the community is interested in, and what that interest, and how they form their interest is perhaps shaped by what kinds of things they can get funding from the government or from other places to help them do the research. And so they are not completely free to have whatever interest they kind of whatever research they want to do. There's this problem there, and if you're trying to get funding from the prison guards to do research on how you can escape the prison, then you're not going to get funded, I think. So this is one problem. The scientific institution is not the place for ultimate truth and knowledge of life and the universe, and especially about things about whether this place is a prison planet. So yeah, maybe I'll just go there. So what do we do? If we want to have knowledge and actual wisdom about life and the universe, about reincarnation, about heaven and hell, and another thing most people just do, it looks like, is just to choose one of the religions and to go to their meetings, go to maybe it is Soka Gakkai, the Buddhist organization. Maybe it is Pure Land Buddhism. Maybe it is some kind of Christianity, that they just go to church every week and listen to the priests preach, or they go to the temple and listen to the monks preach. But and it looks like each of these religions provides a set of answers to all the ultimate questions of life and the universe, but most of the time in a very vague way. So, for instance, if you go to Pure Land Buddhism, they tell you they tell you um, if you just recite the name of Amitabha, then you get reborn in his Pure Land, and you will happily ever after there. So, like, where is where is the evidence? Like, when I look over these kinds of teachings in the Pure Land Buddhism, they teach you, okay, if you recite the name, like then you go to the, but have they ever checked, has ever done any experiments, has anyone ever, if someone is about to pass away and they have recited the name of Amitabha all their life, and then they passed away at the hospital, and the doctors think that the doctors think we are just our physical bodies, and therefore the person who just passed away just does not exist anymore. Is that simple. But if you use Pure Land Buddhism, this person perhaps went to the Pure Land of Amitabha. Okay, but the doctor is not going to check that the patient went to the Pure Land. But even with the people who believes in this Pure Land teaching, but I didn't see anyone checking. Did he went to the Pure Land? Like, with all these mediums out there who claim that they can connect to people who passed away, did anyone try to find a medium to connect with someone who passed away and who recited Amitabha's name many times, very diligently? Perhaps he passed away while standing up perhaps he didn't pass away in a hospital, maybe he passed away very peacefully. Did anyone try to check? The usual attitude, the average attitude would be, it's very hard to check, and people just does not bother to check it. But in math, maybe because I'm coming from math, we prove everything. Every time we have a theorem, we have a conjecture, we do. I didn't do a lot of math, but in the small amount of math I did, we check everything, we prove everything, we give examples. So can we give examples of people who actually, so it's so the statement in Pure Land Buddhism is, if you recite the name of Amitabha, then you will get reborn into Amitabha's Pure Land. So let's treat this as like a mathematical conjecture. Then we have to prove it, right? And if most people just think it's just crazy to want to prove something like that, perhaps we have to get people to try to work on things if the Pure Land Buddhist community, they most of the time they just repeat the teaching. Okay, so you're going to the Pure Land if you recite the name of Amitabha, but have they ever tried to check it, try to prove it? Has their believers who just recently passed went to the Pure Land, can they publish a paper they went to the Pure Land and Like where exactly is the pure? Like inside the Buddhist teachings, it looks like most in the regular. If you just go to, perhaps you didn't go to the Buddhist university, but if you just listen to regular preaching teachings, then it looks like it's just a repetition of persuading you to believe that the Pure Land is the place to go, and the Pure Land is the best place to go after life. But where is the evidence? Where is the scientific research that investigate I don't see a kind of like a, perhaps they should collaborate and do a scientific research into these things to prove it, like so there is still the possibility that it's just a lie, and if it's just a lie, then it makes sense why they're not trying to investigate it, because if they investigate it, then they prove that it's not true. So that's why they don't investigate it, and it's so you go to the religious institutions. So I gave the example of Pure Land Buddhism, and so there are other forms of Buddhism. Maybe the other forms are different, but if you go, you want an answer to what life is about, what the afterlife is about, and you go to the Pure Land teachings, and they just tell you repetitively that if you recite the name of Amitabha, you get born in the Pure Land. And they're not like mathematicians. They don't give you proof, and most people just believe it, and they recite the name and very diligently, and they, if they pass away, no one knows where they went to the Pure Land, and people in the community just believes they do without checking. So just like the medical institution is perhaps not the best place to go to get treatment on the illness, and the university is not the best place to go to get knowledge on the universe, perhaps the various religious institutions are also not the best places to go to get answers to the afterlife, answers to reincarnate. Like perhaps in most Christianity they say reincarnation is, I think in most Christianity they just say reincarnation is they didn't they say it's not true, but in some forms of, but I think in Gnosticism it says reincarnation is true, and in most Buddhist traditions I think they say reincarnation is true. So but are these religious institutions, like even the Buddhist ones, going to conduct serious scientific research into reincarnation? Or it looks like they're just repetitively saying the same thing over and over again. Reincarnation is described in the sutra, or perhaps reincarnation, there are 6 realms in the wheel of samsara, and they're just repetitive in the direct, like the sometimes like repetitively repeating the teachings and not going to investigate it scientifically to understand it more. So when I want to have the correct understanding of reincarnation, what happens after life, just like it's not the best idea to go to the university for knowledge, not the best idea to go to hospitals for treatment, it's not the best idea to go to the already established, even if it's very historically a very historical tradition, perhaps it's not just a very good idea to just go there and think they're giving you all the correct answers. I mean, with the problem of reincarnation, like if the Buddhists have a proof of reincarnation, couldn't they like write down the proof, just like a proof of a math theorem, and show the proof to the Christians who don't believe in reincarnation, And then when the Christians read the proof, because it's a completely logical proof, just like the proof of a mathematical theorem, the proof of, I don't know, maybe the proof, maybe the fundamental theorem of algebra can be proved in many ways, but you have a proof of reincarnation. So couldn't the regular Christians just read the proof, and if it's logical, it's correct, and they can check the details, then they can agree that reincarnation is somehow real. So the question is, does the Buddhists have a kind of complete proof of reincarnation, or do they just have those ideas and it's not really, they don't have the complete proof, like the proof of a mathematical theorem, which everyone who understands logic can read and understand, and then come to the conclusion that reincarnation is real, just like a mathematical theorem. If reincarnation can be made into objective knowledge which everyone accepts, so I mean, reincarnation, like, we need to go into what reincarnation is, like, how does it work, and maybe there are many things to explain further, like, but so suppose there is a formulation of reincarnation, and then there's a kind of proof of reincarnation, and like, I'm explaining this in, like, as if it's math, but maybe the proof does not come from math. Maybe it's another kind of completely rigorous proof, but using other kinds of techniques, not just math. Perhaps we need to use hypnosis. Perhaps there's a kind of like, to prove reincarnation, and have everyone in the world just accept reincarnation, as if, just like everyone accepts Pythagorean theorem. Like, you can, it's straight, like, if you say the Buddhists accept Pythagorean theorem, but the Christians think Pythagorean theorem is not true, like that, this is not likely to happen. Like, we show the proof of the Pythagorean theorem to everyone in every religion, then everyone, because they can understand the proof, then no one disagrees that Pythagorean theorem holds, like, at least in the plane geometry. Like, of course we have to specify, like, if someone tells you, well, it doesn't hold on the sphere in spherical geometry, but that's not the point, because inside Pythagorean theorem it's very clearly laid out when this is supposed to be true. It has to be a right triangle. So the Pythagorean theorem, everyone can agree to it. So how can this kind of objectivity, where true and false is very clear, where things get proved along the way, where how can this kind of objectivity be extended into matters, into spiritual matters, into reincarnation, into the soul trap theory, into things like astral projection, into the study of consciousness. I mean, so at the end, how do we like perhaps the answer to life and the universe, to reincarnation, perhaps there are people who attained complete real understanding of reincarnation, of life, of what's beyond the physical. Perhaps there are people who obtained that complete understanding but they are maybe hiding away in the caves in Himalayas, or they are not in the math department, they're not in the university. So, and perhaps they like then the problem becomes, why didn't they come out and try to tell everyone about their findings, like to liberate everyone from the suffering of the prison planet. So this is another problem, like and maybe this gets back to like Gnosticism, like according to our understanding of history, like the Gnostics are destroyed by the Catholic Church, I think, or by the main form of Christianity, and Gnosticism was sort of not so popular after that. But right now we still can get books on Gnosticism and hear people talk about it, but like it's not the main one of the main form of knowledge system, and I think it's not one of the main forms of knowledge system. So perhaps the people who got the complete understanding of life and the universe tried to, just like in a Gnostic case, like they tried to make everyone aware of it, and somehow, because David Icke said, because perhaps this world is created, not created, is controlled by dark forces like the Archons. Those kinds of knowledge, the real knowledge, when people tries to expand it in the world, they get shut down by various reasons, like one of the example, so yeah, I'm talking a lot of ideas now, but yeah, so yeah, please let me know in the comments if you resonate with, if you agree with any of it, or if you disagree with any of it. Yeah, so yeah, this, yeah, maybe I'm talking too much now, but yeah, you can let me know if you think like we are in a prison planet, or yeah, it's just you can let me know if you let me know in the comments, then I would appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you for listening.